Okay, so the continuation of my Resident Evil kick. I was playing this game. It takes place on a boat. I was getting some serious memory flashes of Cold Fear, and so I stopped, did the video on Cold Fear. Now I'm back on Resident Evil Revelations. I love those. I love that voice announcer on the second generation of Resident Evil games, where it's like Resident Evil 4 or Resident Evil Revelations. Killing my voice. Anyway, just kills me. And so, you know, I always was intrigued by this game ever since it was on the 3DS. And when it was on the 3DS, the big thing was that it was in 3D. 3DS didn't need any glasses to enjoy it. And I've actually played around with the 3DS before. It's a lot of fun. You don't need glasses. But Revelations was then reported onto the PlayStation 3, Xbox 360, and then onto the PlayStation 4 and the Xbox One. And the crazy thing about this is that physical copies of this game are really hard to come by. Typically, the only way you can really find these is through physical copies. Through digital copies. Screwed up there. I happened to come across a physical copy in a used game shop. It was like, oh my gosh, a physical copy of Resident Evil Revelations. It's only $13. So I got it, played it, and it's probably my least favorite Resident Evil game I've ever played. I'm gonna get into it. So, yeah, the initial problem with this game was that it just reminded me so much of Cold Fear, and I won't bore you with my rant on Cold Fear because I've already done a video on Cold Fear. But another thing is, I made the mistake of playing this right after the Resident Evil 2 and 3 remake. I'm doing these chronologically, okay? This was the next one I had, Resident Evil Revelations. And Resident Evil 2 and 3 remake were part of the third generation of Resident Evil games. First generation of Resident Evil games was like, the original one, Resident Evil 0, the original 2, 3, Code Veronica. Those were kind of the original first generation of Resident Evil games. And then there was the second generation of Resident Evil games that kind of began with Resident Evil 4 and consisted of 5, 6, Revelations, and third generation is so much better than the previous two, in my opinion. And so, just jumping from third generation to second generation was really staggering. And I would recommend not doing this for your first time playing Resident Evil Revelations like I did. I haven't played this game before. So, lesson learned, because while the later two felt like a more matured AAA Hollywood action film that had an incredible director and amazing actors, Resident Evil Revelations felt like a Saturday morning cartoon. That's the best I can explain it. I mean, the story is just nonsensical. There's nothing there. There's no depth to it. It tries being so much more than it actually is. And, I mean, the story's just nonsense. It really is. This would be the end of Terragia. Yeah, about the voice acting, it's really painful. It's Not quite as bad as someone helped me find a gun to blow my brains out voice acting, but it's almost there. It really is. And compared to the previous two games I played, where the voice acting was just top drawer, amazing, video game Oscar worthy, this was just, most of it's laughably bad. The dialogue writing as well is laughably bad. I mean, and it doesn't help that there's some really, really lame characters in this game. I mean, just so over the top bad that, like, I had to stop playing a couple of times. Like, okay, you know what? I'm gonna play something else right now, because I really can't handle this shit. He's quoting Dante! Just... You know what? I changed my mind. This is someone find me a gun to blow my brains out bad voice acting. It really is. Just absolute crap voice acting. I don't know what I was... I was giving some leeway to the voice actor for Jill Valentine and Chris Redfield, but you know what? They couldn't even save this from all the bad voice acting. It's just that bad. But moving on. Graphics do their best coming from the 3DS, but they do show their age. I mean, just textures are bare minimum. There are some good looking areas, I will admit. There's some really gorgeous scenes, but it's very clear this originally was developed on a 3DS. It really is. I mean, there are some PlayStation 3 and Xbox 360 games to this day look absolutely amazing and breathtaking. It's just like, you know what, this is just going to age like a fine wine. This 3DS game, they did some amazing stuff with the 3DS. Just, it's not aging well. Yeah. I had to actually make a note of this because I just started laughing my ass off when I saw some of the costume designs in this game. Now, like Jill Valentine, you will play as multiple characters, but she is the one you're playing as the most. Her costume design's actually pretty decent, okay? It feels believable. It's a wetsuit, okay? With, like, tactical harness and holster and, you know, some gear on it. And it feels like if I was to actually see a woman wearing this, I would not be dumbfounded. It was like, oh, okay, she must be like a SEAL or something. Some of the costumes in this game, though, I mean, just the character Jessica, she has this wetsuit that's like pink camo, okay, and one leg has like a pant leg wetsuit, and the other leg is just completely exposed with the gun holster on that leg, okay, and just the costume designs in this game was just absolutely ridiculous. It was just laughably bad, but overall the story was just disappointing, flat out. I mean, and I gotta ask, what was the revelation in this game? Let alone revelations, plural? I didn't even see one revelation, let alone revelations, plural. Okay? I did not see that. And, like, I got the impression from this game, like, this is it. This is going to be the big twist. This is going to be what just shatters everything you know about Resident Evil. No. No. It was just, Saturday morning cartoon. And, so, yeah. And, like, the gameplay, I can't put my finger on it, but it really felt like weapons were an afterthought in this game. Like, oh, yeah, this Resident Evil, there's supposed to be guns in this, okay, just throw a couple in. Well, like, what? Just anything. Well, do we want to make them customizable? It's like, we'll just throw a couple, like, patches on them so that their stats improve, but, like, nothing serious. Like, oh, okay, What about like ammo? Do we want to have one for like machine guns and assault rifles? And no, just have machine guns and assault rifles use the same ammo. Like really? Like yeah, just have them all use the same ammo. I mean, just weapons felt like an afterthought. They didn't feel like they put any real effort into them. Not like other games. I mean, as much as I hate the massive amount of pistols in Resident Evil 4, which came out before this, it felt like they put a lot of thought into how weapons work, how the upgrades work, how everything worked with the guns. But not with this. And one of the weirdest things about this game is the fact that there are no typewriters to save, okay? Each section's like an episode to a series. They treat this like a television series with the previously, and, you know, the only thing they didn't do was the next time on Resident Evil Revelations. But, you know, they did the previously after each segment. And there were 12 episodes. But the weirdest thing is you save in between the episodes. You don't save on typewriters. And typewriters are a staple of Resident Evil. So it was just weird not seeing typewriters anywhere. But the other weird thing is there's not one zombie in this game. Not one. Resident Evil game with no zombies. I mean, I'm not even saying that's a bad thing. I couldn't believe it when I was seeing it. It's like, there's not one zombie in this game. They're all like these mutated fish-like creatures that do look intimidating. Don't get me wrong, but I did not see one zombie in this game. Anything that came close to a zombie was like a boss. Alright? And so, yeah, now, credit where credit's due, there's a lot of replay value to this, because once you play through the campaign, you get a new game plus mode, you have hard difficulties, and then you also have raid mode, which you unlock stuff for that. You can unlock new costumes, which in turn you can play in the campaign. There's a lot to sink your teeth into with this game. The only thing is, it's not really worth it. I mean, okay. This constantly goes on sale for like $7 on the PlayStation Network. If you're a huge Resident Evil fan, then yeah, you probably can pick up for $7 and have a good time. But I don't know if it's worth hunting down a physical copy for this. I mean, it's my least favorite Resident Evil game. And I had a lot of issues with Resident Evil 4. So, you know, it's not terrible. Not by a long shot, but there are a lot better Resident Evil games out there. So, if you get a chance to get this on the 3DS, I would recommend that, because the 3D is fun on that little system. But anyway, I'm Chris with 11th Hour Reviews, and that's my review of Resident Evil Revelations, and that's all.